I just woke up at like 3:30 a.m. and I figured, let me just record this part real quick. I hope you like my cowboy hat. I made it myself. I, um, I sewed all these little smiley face beads on it. Let me know what you think. So, anyway. So I just want to address real quick the name change for the channel. Don't get worried. I'm not going to stop doing what I've been doing. It's just that for a little while now I've wanted to stop using the Myra Elvira name or whatever you want to call it for this channel, for my social media. It just comes down to I just pretty much outgrew it. And I don't consider this channel like huge by any means, but it's been growing, and for me it's been growing kind of like a lot. It's grown a lot more than I ever expected it to. And so there's people I've met in person that, especially last year, I've met quite a few people ever since making this channel that, we could be cool and stuff, but there's some people that just don't understand that, Myra is not my name. It was never my name. It was just the username for the user channel, or for the YouTube channel. And one of the main reasons I just want to stop using it is that, people are going to start talking. This probably sounds really mean, but it's just that if people are going to start talking to me, I would rather prefer they use my name, my real name. It's actually just kind of a big thing, like, in person. It comes down to, like, just stuff in person, where last year, I would meet people and, if we talked about my channel, or they knew I had a YouTube channel, or at the time if they saw my Instagram, they'd see the username that it was Myra Elvira, and that's what they would call me. And I just got tired of it. I got tired of constantly telling people that's not my name. My first name is Mariah. Just call me Mariah. That's what I would prefer. And last year, in 2024, there's quite a few things that happened that I really just didn't like. There's people that I just don't want to associate it with anymore, and I would much rather just have my first name, my birth name, which is Mariah Shante, and that's pretty much all it comes down to. I feel like, certain people that I've met in the past, God, Sammy Duet and Ben Falgu, if those guys can remember my name, remember that my name is Mariah, and say my name, say hello to me whenever they do see me, I just feel kind of like, well, why not just change the channel, I'm still gonna make the videos and all that other stuff as before. It just comes down to, I would just rather be called by my name, the name that people call me in real life that actually do know me. And at this point, if people are only going to call me by what they see online for whatever reason, despite meeting me in person, despite me telling them in the past that it was just a username. It was just a username. Come on, man. That's why I changed it. I would much rather be called Mariah. My middle name is Shante. And that's the reason why I changed the YouTube channel and my social media stuff. And funny enough, when I was in my 20s, most of the jobs I'd have, I would end up having, coworkers that were middle-aged. And most of my middle-aged coworkers would end up calling me Miss Mariah. And so changing, my social media to reflect that is kind of an ode to that. I just think about those people I met, decades before, years, so many years in the past, and that's kind of another nod to it. So my initials would be MS, and so it's kind of funny to say, oh yeah, now I'm Miss Mariah. Granted, that's who I've always been. That's what it all came down to, I hope you guys will see where I'm coming from, and this wasn't, because of any of y'all. It's just other people in real life that couldn't remember my name, yet they could remember my online username. I just want to put a stop to that. That's really what it comes down to. And on top of that, when I first started this channel, it, I never envisioned it going this way in particular. Originally, when I started making videos, like really making videos in what I call a serious context with the true crime and stuff, I was really inspired by channels mainly like the channel Horror Stories, which that guy kind of went off the deep end, so I don't even watch him anymore. Not that he even uploads anymore either, um, but his format was faceless, and when he kind of started going through his thing of just not really uploading anything online anymore, I was like, well, I really liked what he did, so let me make videos about stuff that's in that same kind of context. And so once I started doing the Manson stuff and that really blew up, I was just surprised. I was really surprised. And I was like, well, I guess I could just become a bit more, or show my face more a little bit over time. Um, and last year in 2024, somebody decided to copyright strike me for an 84-year-old story. And I was like, okay, even though technically it was copyright and I was in the wrong, I suppose, I think it's really strange to copyright strike somebody reading a fucking story that's almost 100 years old, you know. But one thing I've noticed in general is that once I started reading books and stories on my channel, especially the Manson stuff, a lot of people didn't realize that it was me. Like, people didn't think it was an actual person doing it for whatever reason. And that's another reason why I'm like, okay, well, this is my face, and this is my name, and if you think that I'm just some robot or AI, then you got it wrong. For a while, I didn't want to show my face because, I was self-conscious about the way I looked. My face and my weight. And at this point now in my life, I just don't even care. I'm in my 30s, and that slope, can I put my hand in there? That slope of caring is just, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm really, and that's another thing too, I'm really self-conscious about my teeth, or I used to be. I can't help but be self-conscious about my teeth because, I've had 7 teeth pulled out. I've had all 4 of my wisdom teeth pulled out, and then I've had a couple of teeth in the top and in the front pulled out. A lot of that comes down to, honestly, when I was 18, I had radiation on my thyroid, and that made maintenance of certain things really, really hard. And I used to be afraid to show my face because of that, because I would, a few years ago, 2022, I interviewed Sammy Duet, and man, a couple of months before we actually did the interview, I had a partial denture. It was a bridge on this side of my mouth, and the fucking thing fell out. And I remember being so nervous when he finally, scheduled the interview with me. Because I was like, oh, fuck, this dude's gonna see, I'm edentulous. I mean, I'm not, but still, It was something I was self-conscious about. But now, I'm just at this point in my life where I feel like, I'm really tired of a lot of shit. That's what it comes down to. I'm tired of all the bullshit. I'm tired of all the lies. I'm tired of all the betrayals. I'm tired of all the deceit. I'm tired of older men thinking they could get a hand on me. I'm tired of people thinking that they could tell me what to do, this way or that, or one another. I don't want to say, names or anything, but it does bother me that despite the fact that, I am an adult with my own, with many of my very own adult things, that's all I'm going to say, it's insulting to find middle-aged people thinking that they could tell me what to do, Some of these people are not even 10 years older than me, and they feel like they can guide me they know what they're talking about. So I guess my point is that this is me, this is my face, and this is my name. So you either respect me or you can go somewhere else. That's what I'm coming down to. This is what I look like, completely without makeup, by the way. Just woke up. It's, it's 4 a.m. now. But that's my point. This is me, this is my face, and this is my name. And if you don't like it, you can get out of here. That's the point I have to make. And while I respect my audience, I also want you to respect me back, too. So please, I'm just going to put my foot down here. Don't think that you can give me unsolicited advice. That's the nice way I'm going to say it. Because I didn't ask. That aside, I'm very, very thankful to all of you who have stuck by my side over the years. Some of these videos don't get very many views at all. And I don't care about that, because that was my last point I did want to bring up, is that for me, this YouTube channel isn't about the views. And a lot of people don't understand that, because a lot of people that have complained in my comments in the past that, especially with like stories I've read, books I've read in the past on this channel, people have complained about and said that, they're practically yelling at me saying that I am stealing from the authors, and I basically should be ashamed of myself. And I'm thinking, and I always thought, how? Why? I thought the whole point of authors writing books is for people to read them. So if you don't like that I'm reading your fucking book on your YouTube channel, I don't know what you're writing for. And I've had people in the past, Tom O'Neill, who wrote Chaos, who had the audacity to tell me in an email that every single view on my YouTube channel, when I was reading, like a couple of chapters to his book, Chaos, every single view in his mind would have been somebody that could have bought his book. And I had to tell him, not every view on YouTube is unique, first of all. And second of all, not every view means that somebody would have bought it to begin with. Third of all, people, just like me, do read or listen to these books that might be on YouTube, and then we buy a copy for ourselves if we like it. But you know what? I do know that if it's copyrighted, technically I am in the wrong. But my point is more along the lines of, it's kind of a moral gray area when you come into the point of fair use. To me, I think it's morally gray, I guess. I mean, I end up reading these books I bought. That's my point. And I do get a lot of people in the comments saying, they'll tell me, like, thank you for reading this, because a lot of people I see, they will tell me that they're visually impaired. And being able to listen to me reading a book helps them a lot. You can agree with the authors, and I mean, I agree too. Hey, that's my book. Why are you reading it on YouTube for free? Why am I reading it? Because I want to. You want me to read the fucking book or not? I don't understand. I don't understand what you're complaining about. Because if someone likes your book, they're going to fucking buy it. Get off your ass. Please. Please. Anyway. I mean, I don't forget stuff like that. Because it's so stupid, it's hard to forget it, in my mind. Because I could tell that a lot of people don't even see what the point of this YouTube channel is. If it isn't obvious, it's about archiving. Y'all realize that, right? Sorry, I'm not trying to be mean to the nice people. Through all the books that I read, and even the people I interview, I do it because I can already see one day in the future that a lot of these things won't be readily available. And the reason why I like to interview musicians on top of that is because, especially in genres like metal, that's very, if you want to put it, DIY or rustic, if we're going to be like Gordon Ramsay, there are certain genres of music and bands and musicians that they don't think of it like this. They don't think, in the future that there will be fans that loved what they did. And in my mind, I like to just make sure we can have as much information that we can get now out of these people, instead of wishing that we could have gotten it later when they're dead and gone. And on top of that, this channel is a passion project for me, and at the end of the day, the only person I care about pleasing and ensuring, the only person I care about that I want to make sure one day is happy with this is my son. Because one day I know I won't be here. And I hope that one day, God, 60, 70, 80 years from now, I hope whenever that is, a very, very long time from now. But whenever I'm not here, I know that one day he could come back and see all these videos, see all these books I've read. He'll be able to listen to them, and he'll be able to hear my voice. That's the way I view it, because I grew up without basically not having the extended family. I had some of my uncles, but I mean, compared to other people I know and I'm friends with and stuff, I didn't have, the grandparents and, the this and the that and the huge ass family with all the extra cousins and stuff. I grew up thinking that my family was big because my parents had 5 kids, And then I met, other people as I got older, and, here you have like so-and-so's family that's been in the same place for 200 years, and their genealogy could be traced back to the 1600s, if not longer, farther. And I grew up without having anything, any mementos, really, of any of my deceased family members. In my mind, I could still hear my grandmother's voice, and I could still hear my uncle's voice, even though they passed away. I could still remember what they sound like. But it kind of makes me want to cry when I think about I don't have any actual, documentation to hear it. And that's the whole point of my channel. Is that one day, no matter whatever happens, all of this stuff I've made, all this stuff I've recorded, my son will always be able to hear my voice. And that's my point. That's the point of this channel, is that despite whatever people might think of it, at the end of the day, it's in a way kind of like, God, this is such a James Hetfield thing to say. It's not for you, it's for me. And it's, what does James Hetfield say? Where he's like, we make music we like, and it's just up to whether the fans like it or not. I don't know. Anyway, my point is, I'm kind of just more of the type of person of, I think that this is important to go over, or I think this is an interesting subject, or this is an interesting book, because as you know me, I really like rare books. There's just something about that. The preservation of very rare, out of print, hard to read, hard to find literature, or counterculture in, maybe a 50s, 60s kind of context. Books like that I find very interesting because they're not popular. Not like other things that you can find at Walmart or whatever. So I hope that clears some things up. And I hope that people will see where I'm coming from. Of course, I'm not... I never take for granted what any of you guys ever say. I never take you guys for granted. And I'm always very appreciative, very thankful, and very grateful that you guys will stick with me through anything and everything. Past couple of years have been hard for me. Very big, bad bouts of depression because of people that I really, really loved that ended up hurting me in the end. And I guess this is kind of a, what do they say, a clapback? I don't know. For me, it's kind of like, alright, I'm tired of getting stepped on. And you know what, at this point, if you don't like it, then leave. I don't care. Go away. I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. But this is me at 4 a.m. with a cowboy hat on and no makeup and the battery to this camera dying. So I'm going to just wrap it up here. So I hope y'all understand where I'm coming from. And maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't. And if you don't, I don't really care anyway. But, Anyway, take care of yourself. Brush your teeth. And please, for the love of God, take a shower.